I got you loud and clear, buddy. How are you?
Doing wonderful. How about you, my man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Let me go grab a hat real quick.
Perfect. Sorry about last time. So good to see
Oh,
you.
dude, no problem at all. That was Mike. I think we was all confused. I appreciate you reaching out, man. I'm looking forward to doing this. Thank you.
Man, it's a colossal awesome honor to have you on the show. Everybody, we got Jordy Culotta on the show tonight. He's
I'll
getting
be
a
right.
hat right now. He'll be back in just 1 second. But this is awesome to have him on. The creator, the face, and the voice behind the Jordy Culotta show. I mean, among one of the best shows that we've got in LSU coverage. I mean, we're spoiled as LSU fans, but the Jordy Culotta show has brought the heat for the last few years. Really, really cool that you started this thing from the basement to the studio and beyond. And just thank you so much for being here with us, Jordy.
Man, Lon, I appreciate you having me, man. It was sorry about the last time, and been looking forward to doing this. You've been doing great work, man. Really impressed with what you got going on, and it's cool to be on this platform with you.
Thank you, Jordy. I appreciate you so much, and that means so much coming from the Kingmaker, Jordy. I I got to admit, I know a lot of LSU fans feel the same way. I was a little disheartened to hear your announcement in the last little bit, stepping away from the show. Um, what went into the thinking and the kind of strategy, the personal place that you're at to take that direction?
A lot, man. Really, it was a difficult decision, and it was one that really kind of started about a year ago, when I just was thinking about what was next for me. I mean, I have a son that is turning 14, just turned 14, and about to enter high school, and just watching him grow up and having the opportunity to, it be him and I, and create some opportunities for him through travel and education and things that are coming up next for him were really, the main points of motivation, of making that choice. But as far as leaving the show, it was one that was very, very difficult. This show is built on passion. It was built on high energy. It was hot, built on good vibrations, of really kind of being a spot and a place that we all had our hand in, whether it be Lloyd, Noah, the people that have come through and really touched the show. And from what I was bringing to it, Lon, and I think that you can probably relate to this. Anybody in this business, it's got to be a fuel of fire and motivation that really gets you to get to the microphone. I kind of lost that for it, and I had to be honest with myself on not being able to provide the highest quality of product, the top of the line product that the listeners, the viewers, the people that were tuning in had come to expect, and that was built on the energy that I was putting into it. At the same time, I saw, Noah and Lloyd and those guys who really have a great hunger and thirst to drive their own platform and drive their own show and things that we've talked about over the years. And, being able to kind of stay involved with it and watch them grow was a good opportunity. But, from my standpoint, I had just kind of, I had hit the end of the line for what this was for me, really and truly. And I had to be honest with that. And, rather than trying to stick around and fake it for a couple of years, I had a great opportunity that popped up. And, that was really kind of the precipice of the decision. Lon, a year ago was, I had created a network in sales, in being in sales for 20 years, and had met someone that, I really trusted within the medical field, and someone who I had a great relationship with. And, throughout some of our conversations would say, look, if anything ever popped up, and be serious, I'll throw it at you. And, it's something that, you can maybe contemplate on what could be next. And, about 6 months ago, 8 months ago, he reached out and said, look, this could be something that you probably should consider. I mean, if you were going to make a move, if you were going to be realistic about making that jump and doing something other than media and selling advertising, this would be a good opportunity. And the more that it was becoming reality, and 4 interviews later, it was a great chance that I have to kind of go on to the next step, and really create a life that I have yearned to do for my son and I. And for what we've done with the show, I think I've kind of hit my ceiling of media, and it's been more than I could ever dreamed of 18 years ago when I got into it.
Man, I applaud you for your honesty to your audience, because there's a lot of people in this day and age who just, you copy and paste, you sit back, your content becomes talking about others' content. Like, you weren't going to go that route. You were honest, and you're like, hey, I want to see because your son's an athlete, and your son's about to hit those years where you want to be there at your son's games.
And that was something that I really thought about, as kind of a mile marker for me. Once he high school and it being an athlete that's goes into his recruitable years, if there is to be one. I really didn't want to have that platform that could maybe look at any type of preferential treatment that he would be getting on anything, or anything that went into that. I wanted whatever was coming his way, whatever he's got in front of him, I want it to be all about him, and I just want to make sure that I'm on the top row supporting, and that I'm there for anything that he needs to accomplish his goals. But, I kind of thought that the show, along with that, might be a distraction. And I don't know if that's the right way to think of it, but I just want to make sure he's got a clear runway to go be whatever he wants to accomplish.
Jordy, with this sales job you're pursuing, is there a future plan where maybe you'll come back around to the media side in the future?
I tell you what really has kind of made me think about what could be next in media is I love the fact that Noah and Lloyd will carry on the daily programming, and that we'll have a daily presence, right? I think it's strong for what the medium is, to make sure that you're in front of your viewers, your listeners, every single day, or at least as much as possible. And like those guys have done, they've done live watch parties, they've done watch along with games. They really kind of put their foot down on the gas as far as bringing more content and more viewing time. But I have always enjoyed the interview aspect. I love the interview part of the job, and have thought about and talked to Noah and Lloyd and the crew about something, maybe a football season down the line, or maybe even an off season down the line, of just some type of conversation, some types of interviews, some type of sit down talk on a longer scale type spectrum of conversation, as a possibility, right? I am, I can tell you, Lon, that I'm excited about kind of getting behind the camera. Really, I think from the executive director standpoint, that I'll kind of, I'll carry that title now, and won't be in the studio every single day with the guys, with the commitment that I have for the new job. But I definitely will be involved, and I'll definitely have a say so, and kind of what it looks like, sounds like, and feels like, and really excited for that. I think that that has become a little lazy on our show. We haven't changed our graphics, we haven't changed our look, we haven't changed our sound really since we popped up a couple of years ago. Other than the evolutions that we made at kind of the beginning of where we were. So, I look for, I look forward to that kind of new approach, that younger vibe. We've brought some more creatives in. We've gone out and found some more, younger personalities, some people that, have high energy to make it look a little different than it looks now. So, I'm excited about that part of it, about, what we can develop as far as programming. But as far as I'm concerned, I have always loved the interview aspect of this job. I've always loved the conversation part of it. And I don't think that I'll ever lose that. And if there was some type of platform where we could do maybe a bi-weekly, a once weekly, a once monthly sit down with a personality that, we could just kind of rap back and forth for, 30, 45 minutes. That's something that I'm definitely intrigued in.
Well, Jordy, you're one of the most respected voices in LSU SEC media. I'm sure the offers, the invitations, you'll have no shortage of them, especially from us. Anytime you want to, you're more than welcome. Anytime, we even get the idea, we will bother you. And just if it's not the time to say, maybe later, man. But we'll still try and bother you, Jordy. But Jordy, I want to take you back to the beginning of the Jordy Culotta show, because I don't want to dismiss or overlook what you have accomplished, what you've created here, because, you're saying there hasn't been too many evolutions. I've seen some evolution with the Jordy Culotta show, a bit here with the graphics, a bit there. And it's been little by little. And I've seen this thing grow from the ground up. When you first started, I remember seeing you on air. I mean, first time I saw you, you were on air with T-Bob on ESPN, and you'd left ESPN radio. What were you feeling in those immediate days after, of like, what's the next move?
Man, it was it was such a scary time in life, right? I mean, it really was. I mean, I was shocked that day when I walked in there and found out that news. The night before that happened, LSU played LSU played Alabama at the Maravich Center. And this was still during the days of, you couldn't fill capacity. You still had limited seats. And Dick Vitale was on the call, and he gave me a shout out live on the air. I mean, about a conversation he and I had before the game, talking about, Will Wade, and we had kind of, really kind of mended the fence of the interview. And, it was really a lot of good vibes around that. And we walked in the next morning and did a show. And actually, Will Wade and I went to walk-ons after the game. We sat in the middle of the room. They had beat Alabama. It was, everybody was coming up to the table. It was great. People were telling they heard the shout out on tele. I mean, it was just all good vibes. I mean, it was everything good. I had the ESPN polo on. And I mean, we go in the next morning on a Thursday. T-Bob and I do the show. And immediately after, I get called in, and I mean, I was skipping into that meeting almost. You know what I mean? Like I was coming in, I turned the corner, and I saw the HR director sitting in there, and I took a step out. Like I kind of stepped back and thought, "Oh shit, I'm about to get fired. I'm about to lose my job." And I mean, I went and like walked down the hall, I remember, and like kind of went into the bathroom and looked in the mirror and kind of was like, buddy, you got to, like, what are you going to do? Like how are you going to handle this? And I was in such a state of shock that I just went in there, and I almost don't even remember any of it. I mean, I remember the people, I remember the scene. I mean, I remember the people that weren't there more than the people that were there. And I just signed my paperwork, and I remember walking out, and I was walking out with the security guard, Johnny, who's was a great friend of mine. And I could tell he was kind of shocked like I was. I mean, he was kind of like, his eyeballs were just big. And I mean, we were walking towards the door, and he was, asking for my key card back, and he was kind of had his arm around me. And I mean, it was just like, it was a fog, I mean, it was kind of like surreal. I mean, it was almost like a dream. And I just kind of got in my car, and I just kind of drove. I mean, I just kind of like started wandering. I mean, I didn't even know where I was driving. I didn't even know what I was doing. And, I just went to my house after kind of wandering around the city and just slept. I mean, I just laid down and I woke up and it was kind of like the middle of the night. And I made a social media post at like 3 o'clock in the morning that was, just kind of grateful for my experience. I remember just waking up thinking that it would be very easy to sound off, to show my ass, really. And at that time in my life, I mean, I was probably more I was probably more tent to do that than try and think clearly through it. But through some voices of some mentors and through some lot of thought about it, and thank God, kind of sleeping those emotions off of it, I put out a gratitude of a post. And I remember it really served me well. I mean, it really kind of came back and was something that I saw the momentum and felt the wave behind the move that could really springboard whatever we wanted to do next. We had a great head start. I really felt that from that post. I remember I kind of made the post and almost like tried to go back to bed, but couldn't. I'd slept so hard and long that I was wide awake, and my phone was constantly buzzing, even from 3 a.m. in the morning to, really almost a week, almost, 4 or 5 days. I mean, it didn't stop. And I was able to, just kind of think through the last 3 years of radio. We were on radio for 9 years. The last 3 of them, Lon, we never promoted the dial. We never promoted people to go to their dashboard and push the 104.5 ESPN dial. We were telling people to go to our YouTube page. Yes. We were telling people to go to our Facebook. We were telling people to go to our digital properties, that, it was the clear sign that radio was dead. I mean, even the radio stations were recognizing at this point. Yeah. And, there was a big deal about the non-compete, and the owner of Guarantee, I thought handled that with a lot of low class. And to this day, out of everybody over there, I have great relationships with everybody over there, except really him. I mean, it just, you could tell. I mean, he's got that born on third base, tell everybody I hit a triple mentality, and it's, not served him best. The feedback you get on him and the way that he handled, not only that situation, but many more situations like it. Everybody else has been great, fantastic. But throughout that non-compete, there was nothing. I mean, I sent it to lawyers. They looked it over. Couldn't do radio anywhere. Couldn't go to New Orleans and do radio. Couldn't go to Lafayette, do radio. Couldn't do radio anywhere for a minimum of 6 months. And I would have missed football season. And there was nothing in the language that said I couldn't start a YouTube channel and just start yapping like that day, and once we kind of like got the real green light, their lawyer, we announced the Jordy Culotta show. We did a huge press release. We got it on The Advocate. We got it at WAFB, WBRZ, WVLA. I mean, I was calling everybody I knew. I mean, I was using all the Rolodex of contacts of get this out. We put front page of Tiger droppings. I mean, I called Chicken. I was like, put this up. I mean, they were great. They were fantastic. And it was everywhere. Boom. Jordy Culotta shows announced it's coming on YouTube. And within an hour, their lawyer sent over, stand down. And it was the greatest, greatest feeling at the time to be able to send back, like, I'm in the great wide open. Yeah. You can't touch me. Come get me. You know what I mean? Like, let's play. Right. And I mean, like, it was, and all those guys were calling me from Guarantee and ESPN, like they ripped up their contracts immediately that day. They had a digital clause, almost a Culotta clause that went into all their contracts of no more YouTube. No, we own your YouTube. We own your digital presence, really and to this day, I mean, it was the great loophole that we found, exploited through corporate America, and one that we kicked their ass. We kicked their ass. I could see the owner that night sitting at home, sucking on his thumb, whining and kicking into the air, which was a beautiful feeling.
Well, and the next thing you did, which really, I followed this the whole time because I was shocked as well by your departure. I loved that show. I still love watching and listening to OTB. But when you started Jordy Culotta Show, I was rooting for you hard. I loved the basement nature of it all. And what really blew my mind was the first people you brought in. How did you, Jordy, identify Lloyd as a talent and the way that he was a talent? How did you identify Noah as a talent, Ronald, Jacob, all these guys?
Yeah. Well, the first call I made was Rivers Huey, and Rivers was fantastic. She, I know, has been brought back aboard over at Guarantee, and that was a very smart move by Matt bringing her on because, she was really key early on and off the bench, really making that jump. I mean, she brought in kind of a digital mindset to our show that really kind of stood us out from the crowd. Moscona was old school. He was doing his thing 3 to 6. He was kicking ass. Obviously Ott and Hannah Griff in the middle of the day were super, kind of 1980s feel of sports talk radio, but very, still informational on what they were doing present day. But from a technical standpoint, we kind of felt like the young show. I mean, we were connected on social media. We had, Rivers, who really understood the space and kind of brought our show very fast up to speed with Moscona in the afternoons, as far as kind of people talking about it, ratings, numbers. And, that was starting to kind of move the meter inside the building. I mean, he was the great untouchable for a long time over there. And that was he was great motivation for me. I mean, he meant so much, means so much to me in the come up of my radio career. And a lot of it was just kind of motivated by catching him, motivated to get him. I mean, he was kind of my Alabama, right? Where, I mean, every year he would motivate me to kind of, I need to do that. I need to catch up there. I need to be up to speed on that to get my own show. And a lot of that was really kind of, he was the carrot that I was kind of chasing for so long. But recognizing Rivers was something that came very early on in radio. And when I got out onto the open market, she was kind of there as a young mom with some time, right? And she jumped aboard early on. God bless her. I mean, at one call, she did it. And we were probably, I speak for myself here. I don't want to speak for her, but I was very eager, bold. We were starting a company. Let's do the thing. Let's be big, bold, proud. I mean, we were probably too fast of, let's sit down, get a plan, come up with exactly how we want to do this, what it wants to look like, and let's do it. And we probably kind of ran too fast up front to where she kind of was like, look, hey, let me raise my hand here. It's probably best for me to do the mom thing. If I can help, I can help. If not, it just kind of, that's where she went from our relation, our show. I know everybody's, what happened to her? That's what happened. I mean, it was moving a lot fast. We had people coming in, and she did a great job in her role. I mean, that's like I told you about that press release, the formation of all the social media platforms, the tying everything together. I mean, I was looking the other day, one of the email addresses, that we still run off of for one of our production elements is still something that she created. I mean, it's something that she understood and really kind of was the springboard for us to she kicked us off the dock and kind of put us out into the open water. And then, I mean, once the people started, I met Lloyd at Guarantee. And, when I first met Lloyd, I was done with Lloyd. I was fuck this guy. I mean? Like he shows up late. He opens the microphone. He just talks on the show. Who is this guy? Like, I mean, who does he think he is? I mean, I don't even know what's his last name. Is he stoned? Is he high? I mean, what's the deal? I mean, and then we would do a couple of shows, and I'll never forget it. I filled in one day with, it was me and Hester. It was me and Hester in the afternoon. It might've been us doing AFR. It might've been us filling in for Moscona one day. And Lloyd was producing us, and we did a 3-hour show and didn't have any guests on. And it was so fun. And we reminisced and we told old stories. And it was the day that Hester was kind of like, oh man, you're kind of an up-to-date historian, bro. Like you can talk some old school LSU football. And yes. I kind of proved that early on in the segment, and we just did it. I mean, we started rolling. I mean, and Hester's got like a quarterback photographic memory. I mean, he'll tell you like snap counts. He'll go back 3rd and 8, Auburn 06, 2:57 left in the third. We call X belly right on 3, Jamarcus. I mean, it's, it's like some stuff where you're like, well, just like, tell me more. And we just got into it. And Lloyd was a great production piece to that. Like we would be talking stuff specifically. He'd go back and find like cool, like kind of little pop interviews that were around that time, or he'd find an image and bring it up behind the screen while we were talking about it. He'd kind of open his mic and drop a little bit of knowledge. And I remember that was the day I kind of was like, Lloyd could be a really good piece to a talk show, because at the time we had James Harrelson as a producer, and James Harrelson to this day is the best radio producer I've ever had. Jimmy Chesthair, I mean, the guy very early on, I mean, he was so good as far as the feel of him and I. We came up almost same day together. We got hired almost same day at Guarantee together. And then we just were starving to get on radio. He wanted to produce, I wanted to host. And we kind of said, let's tie one another to each other and let's go, man. And all of those early days of, the Monday, Thursday off the bench, the Culotta and the Prince, the Hunt and, Culotta and Palmer, the, early days of T-Bob and I were Jimmy Chesthair, James Harrelson. And then, we replaced him with Rivers. And, it was kind of an accidental thing. We brought Rivers on to kind of help us with social media. And she was so good at being involved in everything. She was sitting right next to Chesthair, to Harrelson every day. I mean, it was kind of by osmosis. She was seeing like how to do it. And then she turned into a fantastic radio producer, but was probably, that she outgrew it. I mean, she was needed in another part of the organization. Yeah. But Lloyd was a fantastic radio producer. I mean, he was a guy that had great timing. He knew how to, he finally kind of learned, I thought, of when to speak, when to shut up, when to let the host or the co-host just go. And so when I made the move, I mean, he actually called me, which, I love Lloyd. I mean, he was like, he called me. He's like, I'm in Alexandria. I'm selling jewelry. I'm fucking miserable. I want to do what you're doing. I'm on my way. I mean, it was like I didn't have a choice. He was like, I'm coming. And I was like, absolutely. Get your ass here. Hung up. I mean, 4 hours later, he's sitting in the room, and we're talking about what it's going to look like. And then Noah was, this is how the world works, Lon. I mean, Noah is one of my high school classmates' nephew.
Yes.
I mean, she just followed my, we graduated together. She knew I was on the radio. She saw I was doing my own thing. She was like, my nephew loves that world. you know, he's a sports junkie. She was like, he reminds me of you when we were in high school, you know, because I was the kid that when sports came up, I'd give you the time, date, stand, you know, I mean, who was hitting, who was pitching, who was catching, who was playing quarterback. I mean, I knew all that stuff and would blow people's mind, right? Like that was kind of my magic card trick. I mean, I could tell you about sporting events and people would be like, no way. They'd look it up and it was true. And they'd be like, damn, bro, that's impressive. You know, so Noah was like that. And when I met him, I saw it, you know, like he walked up, he told us, what do you know, tell me about sports. Like, tell me what you think about sports. And I mean, he just, blah, 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 blah. I was like, dude, you got the job. You're perfect. Come on. And he's still to this day, in my opinion, is, you know, and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody, but he's the brightest hire we've made. I mean, he's the one that you can throw anything at him. We've tried to make him a producer. He's done pretty good at it. If he wanted to do it, he'd be great at it. We've made him the social media director. I credit the social media for a lot of our popularity and rise and people being able to access us. Without him, that doesn't exist. And then he's, you know, talented enough where you can throw him on the microphone and throw him on camera, where he's confident, he's knowledgeable, he's, you know, he's up to speed enough and understands the game enough where he can almost, you know, now not almost, he can carry a show, you know, I mean, if he needs to. So, and then from there, I would, you know, this was something that I started at Guarantee, and I kept in touch with the professors and the directors of college, you know, especially like the mass comms and the broadcast journalism classes. Can I just go speak? You know, and all these teachers are always looking for 1 or 2 days to just kind of kill it with a speaker, come in, do Q&A, tell your story, and, you know, see if you can't encourage one person to do it. And I went and did that for twice a semester. And that's where we found Ron. That's where we found Jamel. That's where we found Stewie. That's where we found, you know, all these people that would come in and say, because I would go in there and I'd write my email on the whiteboard. I'd write my cell phone number on the whiteboard. And I'd tell everybody, store it, email me. If you're serious about it, get in touch with me. Here's my cell phone number. You can call me. And, you know, I mean, typical process, you'd get some that thought they wanted to do it, but didn't do it. But then you'd get Stewie, or you'd get, you know, you'd get Ron, you'd get somebody that would come through there that was real serious about it, that would see the opportunity and make the most of it.
Man, and that's the thing, is you've had a great team this whole time, whoever it's been, however it's shifted over the years. But I mean, what really makes you feel confident in Lloyd and Noah to really go from that step of being kind of the support guys to really leading the way day to day?
Yeah, and I think I believe it's their passion, you know, because I think that's what you have to have first and foremost in this business to really stay relevant and be good at it. You know, I mean, anybody can flip on this screen. Anybody can have a take on LSU football. Anybody can have a take on LSU sports or whatever's going on in the sporting world. Those two guys are passionate about it. They're serious about it. They've got great personalities that they're able to put along with it, that I think, you know, kind of goes hand in hand in being able to do this. And they want to do it, you know, most of all. You know, I think like me early on, you know, it was very discouraging and it was very frustrating when Charles Hannegriff or Gordy Rush or, you know, one of these guys would tell me, not yet, you know, not yet. Give me 3 more months. Give me 6 more months. Give me another year, you know, whatever it may be, what it was early in those days where, you know, I thought I was ready. I felt I was ready. And, you know, somebody else was telling you you're not. And I've done that to those guys. You know, I mean, I have tried to kind of keep them in the stable long enough where it's time to let them run. You know, I mean, it's time for them to get this opportunity. They've done enough. They if they're not ready now, they won't be ready. You know, I mean, that was kind of what Hannegriff told me, you know, when we were in the office with Gordy and Moscona and Hannegriff, when I was, you know, I was at my wit's end of I was ready for my show. I don't care if it's Monday night. I don't care if it's Monday and Thursday night. I don't care if it's Monday at 1 a.m. I want the show. I'm ready to just, prove it. And, that's what, Hannah Griff finally said to, Gordy that really kind of shoved him over the edge was like, look, man, I mean, if he's not ready yet, he's never going to be ready. So, I mean, let's just take the training wheels off of him and put him out there. And if he crashes and burns it, we know, and they put me on a Monday and Thursday night from 6 to 8 o'clock. And within a month we were selling, we were making money on that time slot. And, I think these guys will probably do the same, right? I think they'll get a great opportunity here. And, Lloyd is so well connected in the baseball. I mean, I don't think people understand how good his relationships are in baseball. I mean, that is something that I think they'll be able to really use and lean on come baseball season. And Noah is he's a hybrid, man. I mean, Noah is somebody who's a wallflower that can play within any season. He's connected. He reminds me a lot of me as a younger guy. He's friends with these athletes. He's connected to them in a sense of he has access to them. He can, I'm trying to urge him to, use these relationships to bring these guys on. I mean, ask them if they want to come on. I mean, it's the worst thing they can tell you is no, right? And once you realize that no's not really that big of a deal in this business, I mean, it'll loosen up the ability to ask for it.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm shocked and have been shocked this long and how long I've been doing it, the 7 years, 6.5 years I've been doing this, that how many times I expected a no and got a yes. And so you definitely always ask. And I really expect they're going to be awesome. And I've seen what they've been doing lately with Lloyd and Noah. I have every confidence in them to do this. And Jordy, I just want to commend you for giving them the opportunity to do this. You could have just closed up shop. It's not me. It's not going to be my face. We're done. And you're like, no, they worked their asses off to get us here. I'm going to let them go and let them, take over the lead. I just want to commend you. That's selfless and that's awesome of you to do that. I think people should give you a lot of credit for that. You just rarely see that in this business. But
I appreciate that one. Yeah, I appreciate that very much, man. And I think that's how I got my start, and I never wanted to really forget that. I mean, I know that I was a pain in the ass for people when I was coming up. I mean, Charles Hannegriff used to call me the stalker, and when he finally told me that, I'll never forget how proud I was. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, it was such a great moment for me. I mean, like finally when I had made it, when I had kind of like established myself, Hannegriff had kind of brought me out for a steak dinner and was, kind of, proud teacher almost, and said, look, I didn't think you were going to do this, man. He was like, I mean, it got to a point where we were calling you the stalker, and you would just pop up and you would show up and you would ask and you kept asking and you were relentless. And he was like, look, man, that's what it's about. And, that's what made me believe in you. And, that's what made me believe in these guys, I mean, and that is kind of how I see paying it forward. I mean, there's no bigger legend in this town, in this business than Charles Hannegriff in my eyes. I mean, that guy is somebody who I've seen with my own two eyes do it all. Play-by-play in football, play-by-play in baseball and basketball, carry a 2-hour sports radio show, carry a pre- and post-game show to LSU football, carry a coach's show of LSU baseball. I mean, he is such a talent and such a talented sports media member that I think we don't, kind of understand what we have access to here in town, I mean, of just the media personalities that, yeah, we've got some new ones that are, talented and guys that will reach great heights, but we also have great access to people in this business that have seen a ton. I mean, Hannegriff is an encyclopedia. Yeah, he really is. I mean, he is you think that I can call back stuff, or Hester can call back stuff, or Matt Flynn can call back stuff, or Rohan can call back stuff. I mean, Hannegriff can shoot out some stuff where you are like, oh, I mean, like he'll blow your mind.
I'm so glad you've given a tribute to Charles Hannegriff. He is seriously the most underrated, big time. And it's because he doesn't look for the credit all the time.
He really is. He really is. You know, I mean, I love Chris Blair. I think Blair is fantastic. Yes. But I think that LSU really missed an opportunity of keeping Hannegriff on the baseball broadcast in some capacity, right? I mean, like I'm not here to get into the politics of what he needed to do, but his voice on LSU baseball was so soothing and good, and it was even better in the middle of April and May, when you're in some midweek clunker and he's sitting there telling a story about the early 90s when he's calling the game and watching Paul Bird, relief Mike Sorotka. I mean, he is a guy that could just dip in and talk about just about whatever you needed in a moment and make it so elegant that I don't think people, I know you do, Lon, but people don't understand how hard that is to do. In the moment. I mean, it is very difficult to create a fireside chat when you're not looking at anybody. And Hannegriff can do that in a snap of a finger.
That guy's a legend. I haven't ever had a conversation with, I've met him kind of partially a few times. I was meeting Hester the first time in Vegas and kind of had a little bit of a talk with Hanny. But man, I've always wanted to have him on this show. I'm so glad you brought him up. Everyone, if you haven't given Hannegriff some, a watch in a while, the dude is awesome. He cooks every day.
Oh man, he's great. He's great.
Jordan, there's something I really want to ask you about, because I think as we get into kind of this media landscape where things, they can be a little, everything's very, immediate, and then the story's buried, 2 minutes later, the stuff with recruiting, how can you even predict what's going to happen next? What is the most frustrating thing about this new sports media world, this media landscape for you?
Well, I think the frustrating part is almost the athletes and the NIL stuff. I mean, I think that's what was so unique about the media that we tried to approach was we tried to bring front hand access. We tried to bring first line access. We wanted the people that were there. We wanted the people that were in the huddle. We wanted the people that were making the plays, really to be the forefront, to be the story, to be the highlight, to be the star. Right. And now that has become so inaccessible to a point of you kind of lost that part of it. You've lost that raw part of it where it's like, hey man, just come sit down and tell the listeners about your experience. Yeah. Right. Where now it's like, you got to go through my agent, you got to pay me this. And it's like, man, I'm not, like it's a 15-minute conversation at most. I mean, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to overstep, I mean, I'm in the media. You're a player. I'm trying to highlight you, I mean, and I'm pro player, Lon. I mean, I am anti-establishment, I am pro player. I am, pay the players and make sure that they are taken care of first before corporate America eats. And, that has kind of just lost its ease of access for me. I mean, that was kind of a part of the business that I always felt like I had a great advantage, right? I mean, I was not scared of that. I felt like I had good relationship with athletes. I felt like athletes respected me in the sense of they knew that I kind of had their best interest. I wouldn't go blast their news. I mean, I could go to the club with them. I mean, I could see what they were doing kind of away from the field and not go report it. And once you kind of report or once you kind of build that rapport with one of these guys, you're really kind of in, I mean, you're really kind of, you've really kind of crossed over and you have their trust and you're able to maybe get some stories that the other guys may not be able to get. And, that has, from my opinion, kind of been lost in what today's world has created.
Absolutely. I mean, just from my perspective of the sources, the people I talk to, I've even seen that change for me and get more difficult. It's a lot more difficult to break news now than it's ever been. At the same time, maybe it's easier. I don't know. It's a weird media landscape right now, Jordy. It's hard to know what to make of it. But Jordy, a few more questions. What do you think is the most misunderstood belief or like opinion about your brand, the Jordy Culotta Show?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that it would be looking to always start drama. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's not my, I mean, look, I know that this business comes with a little bit of that, right? I mean, like you got to kind of get out there and you got to create a little bit of a ripple or a wave. But I mean, I would rather stay out of the drama rather than create it, right? I mean, that's just kind of the nature of who I am. But I think that that's a little bit of a perception of our brand and who we are. But I think it could be a lot worse than that. I mean, for all reality, I don't think that there's a lot of winning in this business from that standpoint, from the PR standpoint. I don't think just by the way that the world is, the nature is. You take people and put 10 in a huddle. 6 people are going to feel this way, 4 people are going to feel this way. I mean, that's the way that it is. I mean, I'm not trying to fight for people's, likeness. I'm not trying to fight for people's, the way that they feel. I'm not here to tell people how to feel. I mean, I have used my platform to give my opinion on regional sports that we all watch, all the while trying to bring in the best guests and people to talk about it. That's kind of what I set out to do. That's what I wanted to do. And, I thought we did it at a high level. And for people that disagree with that, okay. I mean, I hear you and I understand why you may feel that way, but it's really none of my business, of how people feel about the show. And because that's what it is. I mean, it's a relationship with people. I mean, whatever your relationship with it is your deal. And I can only tell you what I set out to do with it and what I wanted to create from it. And I really feel like we did that.
Absolutely. And it continues today with Lloyd and Noah taking the reins after the Super Bowl. Jordy's still on the show. If you right there live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Central on YouTube. Jordy, just a couple more questions. I want to get your opinion on LSU real quick. LSU won some major transfer portal signatures this last December, this last January. And there's probably going to be more on the way in the spring. You've been a critic, as have I, about kind of LSU's NIL organization the last few years. Do you think they've turned that corner NIL-wise?
100%. I mean, I think they've just changed their priority. I think that the way that they look at the way that they approach it, I think is totally different. And how can it be? I think you're still learning and trying to figure out the best way to navigate it. Where do you spend? But one way that they were underspending last season was the portal. But this year they did a tremendous job. I think, we're talking about the portal and we may get to it in a minute, but the coaches that Brian Kelly has brought in, a lot like what he did today, I mean, it's just a sign of proving, kind of where he is in his expectation of the program and what he expects to accomplish. And I thought that transfer portal class said everything that you needed to know about where LSU and Brian Kelly feels like they are as far as competing for not only a playoff spot, but, a second or third round of a playoff spot. So, you needed a safety, you went and gotten the best in the class. You needed defensive tackles, you went and got multiple. You needed cornerbacks, you went and grabbed a couple of big time players. You needed a quarterback, you went and got a guy in Michael Van Buren who was, very established. You needed wide receivers, you went and cherry picked, some of the league's best players and Nick Anderson and Braylon from Kentucky, Barry and Brown from Kentucky. So, I mean, they have, just really showed off You know, I mean, I've been thoroughly impressed with the way that Kelly has handled the offseason. And like you said, I mean, I've been a critic. You know, I mean, I've been somebody who is, you know, really kind of asked questions about what they had going on and why they were doing things particular ways. But I really feel like, you know, Kelly has a plan for this offseason. He's attacked this offseason, and you know, whether it be transfer portals, high school recruiting, or hiring coaches, you know, I really think he's knocked it out of the park.
It's been incredible. I mean, I was already giving Kelly a lot of credit just because it's like, man, this is a dream staff that he's built. Like, you know, this is incredible. Bo Davis coaching our D line, Brad Davis, our O line. I mean, Corey Raymond's back, Blake Baker. I mean, it's brilliant. But then Lance Guidry is an analyst. I mean, the pieces are all starting to come together here, Jordy. Last question, Jordy.
Yeah.
Do you personally believe Brian Kelly is going to win that national championship at LSU?
I do. Yeah. I think he's got a lot of resources. He's got a lot of support. He's got a lot of backing. He's got a lot of people that depend on him to win. You know, I mean, I got a lot of people that bet on him to win. So I think that, you know, not only does Brian Kelly need it for his resume, but there's some other people up there that need it just as bad as Kelly does. But you know, I think Brian Kelly's a good coach. You know, I mean, I think he's a guy that can get the job done. And I do believe that he will win a national championship at LSU. And, you know, I believe that to be in the next 2 or 3 years, Lon. I mean, I think that will be rather quickly, you know, from LSU standpoint, and possibly even could be next season. You know, when you talk about bringing back a senior quarterback, first and foremost, a guy that has played as much football as Nussmeier has, in the way that they've recruited, to the coaches that they have, to the guys that they have coming back. You know, I really believe LSU to be a very trendy pick going into the season for a lot of people to look at, you know, them as a possible, you know, team to make a run at it. But, you know, I think that they've really built a talent, and I think that they have the coaching of what it takes. You know, I mean, as much as we've talked about, you know, Nussmeier coming back for another year, I think it's huge that Joe Sloan and Cortez Hankton coming back and staying together as another year together, and adding a guy like Alex Atkins into that room. I mean, just is, I don't know if you can really quantify how much that means to add a guy so strategic to a room that already has a guy, and a dominant recruiter and motivator like Brad Davis is.
Yeah.
It's fantastic work by Kelly. I mean, I can't say enough that the Atkins news and even the Lance Guidry news today, those are two big time moves that you look back, if you make a Final Four or win a national championship, as two very much points of you know, the commitment of getting there.
Absolutely. You look at the 2019 staff, just built top to bottom with guys like this. Saban's done this for years, where he's got former DC, now as an analyst, he utilizes these guys in their roles and maximizes them for his team. Jordy, seriously, thank you so much for everything you've done for LSU media, for the coverage you've provided over the years. Man, I hope this is not goodbye. I hope this is not the last time we see you around the media world. I hope you return at some point, because, man, your voice, the way that you cover things, the way you talk about things, the way you put them in a historical context, in a modern context, in a present context, man, it's unrivaled. We absolutely love what you do. And Jordy, you're the man. Thank you so much for every opportunity you've given us, and thanks for being a friend.
Lon, thank you so much, man. Keep up the great work. You're doing a great job, man. Very proud of watching the way that you have developed and grown your platform.
Wow. Guys, that means everything. This is the Kingmaker. He's now has Lloyd and Noah running the show. Everybody, go watch Jordy Culotta Monday through Friday live, 7 a.m. Central on YouTube. Jordy's going to be around for a little bit for the Super Bowl, but after that, it's the Lloyd and Noah taking over the town. Jordy, you're the man. Thank you so much for making the time for us, sir.
Thank you, Lon. Have a great night, man.
We'll be talking soon, Jordy. Have a good night, sir.
Thank you.
Everybody, that was Jordy Culotta joining with us. Hopefully you got to watch that and enjoyed it. We had so many questions we wanted to keep asking him. Could have had him on for another hour. I mean, my God, it was so much fun to talk to Jordy. I really think, much like how he was saying Charles Hannegriff is underrated, I think LSU fans don't realize how spoiled we have been with a guy like Jordy. I mean, look at the interviews he's had. He provided that Tyrann Mathieu interview that was absolutely spellbinding. He provided that Brian Kelly interview. I think he probably did the best Brian Kelly interview, him or Jacques. Michael Cobbles was pretty good too. You see his love and respect for the area of Baton Rouge, for the Louisiana, the state of Louisiana as a sports nation. I mean, he's always been into all the Louisiana sports, covers all the Louisiana sports, and he's always done a hell of a job. And you know what? Jordy has given us opportunities. Jordy had let us write for his website. He's given us a lot of opportunities that other people didn't. He was never threatened by us coming up. He never, tried to do anything snaky with us. Jordy was always straight up with us. Jordy was always a really good person to us in the media world. And I just want everyone to know that, like, we're from out of state, we're kind of an outsider with that whole thing. We've been kind of an asshole on our way up, we've made mistakes. Jordy has given us a lot of grace and a lot of opportunities, and I respect him. I respect his work, and I really hope that everybody continues to support the show. I think it's incredible that he's having Noah and Lloyd continue on. I think it just speaks to the type of person Jordy is. And I hope he comes back into the media world, because he's such an awesome presence, and it would be a shame if he were to call it quits for good. But, if this is going to lead to something where he's happier, then you know what? More power to him. Like, Jordy will always be around LSU, always be around Louisiana football. So this won't be goodbye for him. But everybody, this is goodbye for us for tonight. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for watching. Really, this has been awesome. We're going to be trying to have a lot more guests on. We have some LSU legends coming up. So thank you guys. Thank you guys.